Hello everyone and welcome back to another exciting episode of Boyographic, the show in which I, Matt the Gameboy, will take you through the highs and lows of the Game Boy library, one cart at a time. This week we're going to be looking at a cart that falls into the latter category. It's the Blues Brothers. Perspective is a fine thing, especially when reviewing older consoles. Not only in regards to judging a game's merits based upon the time of its creation in order to reflect on it, but because as much as I love the Game Boy, even I cannot get away from the fact that this system has some serious clunkers on it, something that I sometimes forget. Imagine my shock when I watched the cult comedy sensation that is the Blues Brothers, the story of two brothers, Jake and Elwood, who need to save their childhood orphanage from being closed and in turn get the old band back together. A movie that instantly became a favourite of mine, and one that could make for an incredible video game on paper if you really thought about it. So excited was I at the possibility of this that I put aside two of the best games on the console to jam Blues Brothers into my Game Boy, salivating in some kind of weird fever dream of what the hell that game would be. I saw car chases, stealth sections, rhythm-based minigames, and scary nun bosses. So naive was I that I missed the glaringly obvious sign that this game was to be a clunker. The small red fox on the cartridge of Titus Interactive, makers of Superman 64. The game starts promisingly enough. An 8-bit rendition of the Peter Gunn theme blares through the speakers over a stylized title card of the titular Blues Brothers, and you think, oh yeah, here it comes. And it's when you get to pick which of the brothers you're going to play as, Jake or Elwood, that things really start to fall apart. You'd think this would be a simple aesthetic choice of if you'd rather play as John Belushi or Dan Aykroyd, but nope. It's actually a choice that says, do you want this game to be a pain in the ass or a complete fucking nightmare? You see, Elwood's enhanced jumping ability means that to play as Jake will leave you at a complete disadvantage, as even with Elwood's higher and longer jump, most of the later leaps in the game are hell to make, meaning playing as Jake will see you dying a hell of a lot more than you probably should. I mean, at least to compensate it with extra health or something. The game has 5 increasingly frustrating levels, all of which hold no reference to the source material and are littered with generic sprites, unfair pitfalls, and a whole host of rage enemies who will shoot you as soon as you come on the screen. Meaning the only way you're going to beat this game is by learning it back to front, an annoyance amplified by the fact you only get 3 hits per life, 3 lives per game, and only 2 continues. It's under these circumstances you just have to question if Titus understands that playing a video game is actually meant to be fun. You can gain more hearts either by collecting them scattered around the level, or by simply amassing 100 records, but believe it or not, this is an absolute pain in the ass. If you stumble across a present, it'll either give you 20 records towards that 100, or more often than not, it'll explode in your face and take 20 away from you. Not to mention that a broken record will take away 10, meaning that despite constantly collecting records, you'll almost never have 100 to restore 1 heart. And the meter's not even on screen, you have to press the start button to actively check this, which seems like a glaring design flaw. As you also start each new level with as many hearts as you left off with, this becomes a real problem fast. And if you manage to get 5 hearts and 100 records, well, you get nothing. Sorry about that. As the only way to earn extra lives is to collect the one hidden in each stage, often at a place where you'll die multiple times attempting to collect it. The only relief to this frustration is that when you die, you carry on where you left off until you run out of lives. You can kill enemies in the game by throwing boxes at them, but there really isn't a lot of them around, and really begs the question, if you were going to put so many enemies in a game and completely ignore the source material, why not just give me a weapon? The only thing that the Blues Brothers gets right is its music, which, in all fairness, is a relief, as it's the heart of the Blues Brothers experience for me. How can you not like a perfect 8-bit audio version of the Peter Gunn theme? And that's just the start of it. I found myself leaving the first level of this game on in the background while I was writing up this review, because that cover of Everybody Needs Somebody to Love is just amazing. The game does become lazy in the later stages of the game and starts to reuse music, but this is perhaps one of the more forgivable things Titus did in this whole experience, so I'll let it slide. But when you add all this up, it really does make you wonder why this game was made at all. Titus released the Blues Brothers on multiple systems from 1991 to 1994, over 10 years after the movie hit cinemas. So it's not like the Blues Brothers were at the height of their popularity. It takes nothing from the film other than its soundtrack and main characters, which begs the question, why did you need to make such a cookie-cutter, generic platformer that's more frustrating than it is fun, with an IP that no kid over the age of 16 is going to even know about in the hazy pre-internet days? And it boils down to that Titus wanted to sell you a shitty game that nobody would have bought otherwise. Case in point, Titus the Fox, the game based on Titus's mascot. It's simply a money grab that you should never have the displeasure of purchasing, and that goes for every other version of this game, as the only difference I can see is that they paste in a text screen reserved for the manual of the Game Boy version, telling the player of the ludicrous plot they pulled out of their asses to change up the level design. Avoid this game like the plague. And that goes double for this game's sequel, The Blues Brothers Jukebox Adventures, which, while I will eventually cover on Boyographic, for my memory is even worse than this one. And that brings us to the end of another episode of Boyographic, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've enjoyed this stern lecture in why you shouldn't buy Blues Brothers. Yeah, sorry folks, that's the way it is sometimes. You gotta take the good with the bad, as they say, and in me showing you some brilliant games, I guess I should also show you which games to avoid. If you would like to see some games you would probably prefer playing over Blues Brothers, why not check out some of our other Boyographic videos in which I do show you the highs and lows of the Game Boy library one cart at a time. Check out our Boy Curious series in which I look at some of the oddities and bootlegs for the system, and then check out All the Glory, of which there will never be a Blues Brothers version. There are a few long plays already on YouTube, and to be honest with you, I've completed it off camera and I have no intention of doing it again on camera, because it's just a terrible game, if I'm being honest. If you haven't already, please subscribe and tell some other people you think might be interested. And until next week, Game Boys and Girls, game on.